The Hanging Watch. Chapter 1. The Man Who Cried Wolf. 1083 days left. The sun was setting upon the small woodland village. The evening air was cold and wet, retreating from the just finished rainfall. The local tavern was cramped and muggy, full of people recovering from a hard day in the rain. The waitstaff worked with a quickness, delivering drinks, collecting used dishes, and keeping everyone in high spirits. A few men, high on exhaustion, huddled in one corner, singing an old folk song about a dragon blowing a storm away. The door to the tavern then suddenly flew open as an old man in a large dark heavy woolen cloak barged in. "A monster! A monster in the woods!" The vibrant chatter and song in the tavern died as all eyes turned to the man. He hurried to the center of the room, his work boots clomping on the wooden floor. "I was out in the woods checking on the trees after the storm when I saw it. It looked like a wolf, it did, but much bigger than any wolf I've ever seen. It lunged at me, almost took me arm off, it did." He thrusted his right arm out for all to see, showing long bandaged slashes down the length of his forearm. "We have to kill it. Who here will lend me their axe?" There was a moment of muttering from the crowd before a man stepped forward. He looked about in his 50s with short gray hair, a square jaw, and coarse hands from a hard life of labor. "Are you sure it was a monster, Dad? Perhaps it was just a bear that wandered too close." "No, it was a monster. I swear on my late wife's grave. Will no one help? Think of your wives and children." That seemed to stir some to the old man's cause. A few more people rose to help the old man hunt this monster. "Would you be willing to put some coin where your mouth is?" said a new voice. Approaching the small group was a man about in his mid-20s. He had dark black hair, bright blue eyes, and wore dark traveling clothes with heavy work gloves. "I'm sure myself and a few others would be willing to hunt this monster with you if you paid for our meals and maybe even a night's rest. What say you?" The old man studied the traveler for a moment. "Fine. If you help me find and kill the monster, a few rounds will be on me." That got people's attention, as a few more stepped up to join the now decently sized hunt. The hunting group was about 8 strong as it headed into the damp forest. It was being led by the old man holding a lit lantern in front of him with his non-injured left hand. The old man's son, who was holding a lit torch, moved over next to the traveler as the group marched forward. "I haven't seen you around before. When did you arrive in town?" The traveler responded while keeping his eyes on the forest around them. "I just arrived today. I plan to just spend the night, then head out in the morning." "Ah, I see. That's why you are helping with this monster hunt. Just in it for the free food and room? Also, what may I call you?" The traveler finally turned and met his gaze. "My name is Vernon. And what may I call you?" "I'm Erwin. It's nice to meet you, Vernon." Now that Erwin was close, he could tell that Vernon had been on the road for quite some time. His hair was shaggy, his clothes in need of repair, and he had bags under his eyes. "Do you think your father really did see a monster?" Vernon asked. Erwin sighed. "I doubt it. Pa is at an age where he tends to misinterpret what he sees, but even if it is just a bear or something, it is still best to deal with it before it tries to get near the village again." Vernon nodded, turning his eyes towards the trees again. "There are many afflictions that can affect both wolves and bears alike, ones that turn them aggressive, to grow unusually big, and or just generally unnormal." Erwin nodded, as the two of them kept walking along with the group in silence. It was quite dark by this point. The sun had fully set, and the treetop blocked the stars. Water dripped down from the trees, causing a fake rain to fall. The sound of the forest shifted around them as its nightlife came alive. The old man lifted up his lantern and made a shushing sound at the group. "It's here. I can feel it." The group looked at each other in apprehension before slowly starting to spread out. People prepared torches, pitchforks, and axes in anticipation to kill a monster. The group stood in silence amongst the forest, each crackle and pop of the torches and each fallen drop of water feeling unnaturally loud. The silence was broken suddenly by the scream of one of the villagers. Vernon whipped his head in that direction just in time to see the man get pulled off and disappear into the brush, just to hear his screams stopped with a snapping sound. Fear rippled through the group as everyone started fearing the worst, that the old man was right. Everything then happened at once. Some people tried to run while others charged. Erwin was one of the few who charged forward, his torch held forward in one hand and a small axe in the other. Vernon stood still, trying to get a good look at what was attacking them. Whatever it was big and fast. The next to die were the two who tried to run. The monster pounced on them in a blur of dark red fur. The men screamed but were soon silenced by slashing claws and snapping fangs, as their bodies hit the forest floor, torn open and bisected. The monster paused and eyed the old man, giving all of them a moment to see it clearly. It was indeed wolf-like in shape, but it had red fur and was about the size of a horse. Vernon, however, was surprised that the old man had either missed or failed to mention its most striking feature. Its eyes were pure white without any trace of a pupil, and they seemed to be connected. Its two eyes were stretched and connected over the monster's nose, which gave Vernon the feeling that you could never escape its sight. Helplessly, Erwin watched as the monster pounced and landed upon his father, crushing and killing him under its weight. "Dad!" he yelled as the monster turned its sight on him. Out of the corner of his eye, Erwin saw Vernon take something out of his sleeve and point it at the beast. Just as it seemed ready to pounce and kill him, Vernon yelled something in a language Erwin didn't recognize. The forest then danced with light as a bolt of lightning leapt from Vernon and slammed into the beast, causing it to crash into a tree and the smell of singed fur to enter the damp air. Erwin and the two other remaining villagers stood for a moment in shock before Vernon yelled at them, "I only stunned it! Kill it quickly!" Right, Erwin thought as the three of them ran forward, weapons held high. Erwin slashed down his axe, like the monster was simply another piece of wood for him to chop. His stomach then dropped, as instead of a solid deep gash, he only managed to give the beast's thick hide a small cut. He then heard the monster roar, as his world went dark. Vernon cursed as he saw the beast slaughter the remaining villagers, leaving only him alive. He turned and started running, seeing the monster lunging after him with its bloody maw open. He pointed his wand upwards, felt his ears pop from the pressure, and yelled, "Erkirdu!" The jaws snapped on empty air as Vernon appeared high in a tree, falling and tumbling for a moment through the branches before he caught a solid one to hang on to. He pulled himself up and then glanced down at the monster, hoping that it either couldn't climb or didn't want to. The monster stalked back and forth at the base of the tree for a few moments, before it turned and bounded off deeper into the forest. Vernon breathed a sigh of relief. I hate sleeping in trees. He then thought about the now dead 7 individuals below him. 2 in their 30s, 3 in their 40s, 1 in his 50s, and 1 in his 80s. I can live with that. Vernon adjusted himself to keep from falling, and eventually drifted off to sleep.